Mike King, Chief of Police in Shepherdstown. Are you Chief of Police of any other areas here?
No, just this is my only job. This is my retirement job.
Great. I'm just gonna start off with a fun question that I like, being asked myself, which is, with the choice of anyone in the world as a dinner guest, who would you choose?
Jennifer Aniston.
Man, I can't even visualize her. Is she like?
Do you know who she is?
Nope.
Played in Friends.
Oh my gosh, I need to see that someday.
Yeah. No, there would be. I don't know. The list would be. I think everybody looks up to different people. So you have. I'm not real big into politics. Politics are what they are. Everybody has their own opinion. She's an actress that I've liked watching on a lot of different movies. And I think it would be interesting to sit down and have dinner with her and talk sometime just to see what has transpired in her life.
So you say you don't really pay attention much to politics, right?
No, I say I just don't get involved in it too much.
Gotcha. Big difference. With that in mind, if you were a lawyer and there was something you could change about, this county, this government, do you know what you would want to change?
Yes, I do. There's a real simple answer. The opioid crisis in the state of West Virginia is a big problem. And they've taken some steps to correct it. And this would be difficult to get through, this type of a law. But when we administer Narcan to somebody, they're free to get up, refuse treatment, and leave at that point.
What's Narcan do?
Narcan, it basically erases the effects of the opioid medicine. Okay? So a person can be almost out of it, barely breathing, and a lot of times the Narcan will revive them almost instantly.
So it's like charcoal for alcohol poisoning?
Sort of. It's an injection, but it's not an injection. It's an aerosol injection that's sprayed up the nose.
Okay.
And it has no effects on anything else. So if there's a mistake where the person is actually maybe having a heart attack and not a reaction to an opioid medication or an overdose to opioids, it will do nothing. Right. It won't harm them in any way. So, it's about as safe a thing as they have. But typically the problem we have is when people come off of the opioid overdose, they want to fight, and they come up violently or aggressive towards anybody around. And it doesn't just have to be us. It can be the EMS personnel, anybody. It's just the way the body reacts to things. But we have had, when I say we, in the police community, we have been fortunate here not to have very many in town. I mean, in fact, zero.
Zero
opioid overdoses. Now, we've covered on quite a few outside of town limits with the county. And some of these people have to take more than one dose to come out of it. And some people are giving Narcan more than once in the same day.
Oh my gosh. Because they'll just leave and then
go get more, do it again. Or sometimes the opioid or the medication, if it's got fentanyl in it or something like that, may be so strong that they only get out of sight and it kicks back in again.
Wow.
And they could actually die from that. So, there's a lot of responsibility for us when we administer Narcan, but there's not a lot of remedies for us, meaning like we can't require them to go to the hospital.
So you can just take them and give them Narcan, and then they can just leave?
They can refuse and leave.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
So we should treat, in your opinion, we should treat, these people who are in these situations kind of like a, what they're saying, like, what they are refusing shouldn't be taken as seriously.
I think there should be a requirement that they go to a hospital, be checked out medically. Obviously, there's a problem with an opioid if they are to this point. In most cases, it is. I mean, there can be a chance of an accidental with medication, but that's not too often. Okay? But if that's the case, they should have to go see a medical doctor, go through some type of a screening, and then possibly I would like to see some type of a forced treatment. Now, forced treatment doesn't get a lot of response because the person's made to be there. They're not going to get anything out of it. They have to want to be there.
Right. They have to feel like they're in control.
Absolutely. So I don't really have, a forced treatment is not going to get you anywhere, but hopefully we could find something that would make that person want to get into treatment after they have gone through this process.
Yeah, hopefully they want to live, right?
Or at least get them to the point where they are through the rough part, dried out, then let them make that decision whether they want to go to treatment or not, whether it's a week, whatever, But I just, it's a drain on resources at all levels in government is the opioid crisis.
Right. And the pharmaceutical companies are naturally the profiteers.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that has been really cut down. I mean, there are, the problem is it got cut too late, so now they're having to go to heroin and other drugs. That's the illegal drugs, obviously, and they're the ones that are causing the problem because there's no regulations on how strong, what's in it, and that's what's causing the issues.
And the fentanyl, of course,
yeah.
Which just a tiny amount can kill you, right?
Yeah, the size of a pinhead, if it's inhaled, can cause you to go into an overdose situation.
So should we legalize all drugs?
No. No.
Should we make drugs more illegal? Worse consequences?
I don't think that's the answer either, because we've tried that and we're not getting anywhere.
Right. I think 2005 was it? I forget the law, but I think Bush put it into place. The fighting drugs, war against drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, you're never going to eliminate the demand. You have to hit the demand before you can eliminate the supply. If you can eliminate the demand, you'll eliminate the supply.
So 2 out of 3 people in West Virginia, I read, know someone who is addicted to opioids, who is having an issue with opioids. And I think this is the worst state in the United States.
It's one of the worst. I don't know if it's the worst, but it's one of the worst.
Right. And that, is it just opioids or is it other drugs as well?
Opioids is the main issue right now, the opioid crisis.
Right. So the demand, how can we reduce the demand for these people who are physiologically addicted?
Well, there is 2 ways that it will reduce. And one of them is a natural way, and that unfortunately is by death. Because you don't see a lot of elderly heroin addicts.
Right.
Because they have either died, or the second way is through treatment.
Right. Very dramatic. People don't generally come back from this on their own, do they? So we need more readily available rehabilitation.
And it's very expensive.
Right. Does insurance usually cover it?
Sometimes, if the people have insurance.
Right, and this is there's a lot of poverty around here as well. So.
And then finding a facility that can accept them immediately when they need that treatment. There are very limited amount of facilities right now that can do that type of treatment. It's a real resource drainer.
I know that it's also it's a Schedule I drug, I believe.
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
And so if people are caught, if they have opioids on them, if you guys legally have to charge them.
Well, we don't have to. There's no requirement that they be charged. Okay?
So it's your discretion.
It's an officer's discretion whether they charge somebody with that type of a crime. There are certain crimes that there are requirements to charge somebody. That is not one of them.
Interesting.
As it is preferred not to be charged in situations where if somebody goes into an overdose situation with an opioid, let's say at a party, and there are drugs in open view, it is frowned upon to make an arrest in that if somebody has called because of the overdose, because they would rather have that person get the treatment rather than the arrest be made.
So don't punish someone for
calling. Exactly.
Right. Whereas preventative punishment, is that used for these types of drugs still? Like if they're caught on the street or?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have it. It's another way to open people's eyes around them. A lot of people, believe it or not, that have a heroin issue that nobody knows they have that heroin issue.
But you can tell.
It can be hidden for a long time until it gets to the point where it gets so bad that it's obvious.
Right. The teeth, the face.
Yeah, and once it's that point, it's really difficult.
To get them clean?
Sure, absolutely.
I know you said that either death or rehabilitation is sadly the dramatic ways that people will come. This will end. Is it also true that they'll be able to go through the withdrawal within prison if they are charged with it?
Well, they can, okay, but as we know, it's not impossible to get drugs in prison. There are overdoses that occur in jail.
Oh my gosh. What a tricky issue.
Yeah, it's a very, you're dancing on eggshells. I mean, seriously, you're seriously dancing on eggshells. For a person to have a successful rehabilitation, from the people that I've talked to that do rehabilitation, just the rehabilitation, getting clean, is only the first step. They really have to sever ties with almost everybody they have connections with.
All of their links back into that.
Absolutely. Some of them have to actually move away to get to that point. You have to change your whole life, literally.
So they need a place to get a clean slate. They really need support.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I mean, this is a difficult situation that the country's facing, and it's not just for West Virginia, it's everywhere.
Right, in other countries as well. I mean, the cigarettes have returned to Europe since they're, going down here, being replaced with vapes, right?
Yeah, yeah. And now I noticed one of the states you're talking about vapes, Pennsylvania has just outlawed. You have to be 21 now to buy cigarettes and vape.
I believe that tobacco products are 21 in the whole country now.
Is it now 21 whole country for it? We don't do the enforcement on that typically, so we don't,
So stores will still sell for just people who are underage?
I don't think they would. There's people who come in and do checks for that, agencies who do checks for that. I mean, we could run a check for that, but that's probably not going to be very successful.
A check like a secret agent type of thing?
No, just sending somebody underage in to see if they'll sell them cigarettes. With everything else that's going on right now, unfortunately, that's why I say heroin and these type things are such a resource drain that you don't have time to spend on those situations.
Yeah. Yeah, heroin has the higher death rate, I'm sure.
Sure, absolutely. The cigarettes are not immediate like heroin is.
Right. Not as destructive. One other thing, so regarding jail, the prison systems right now, there's private prison systems that are pro-profit all around the country, if I understand. Some of the worst ones in terms of how much they're taking in people are around here. What can we do? Like, if it's literally a benefit for private systems, private prisons that are for profit, if it's a benefit for them to create a school to prison pipeline or any other kind of pipeline, what can we do? Do we need to abolish private prisons?
Well, I'm not familiar with a lot of private prisons. I've never had to deal with them. My experience has been in Maryland and now in this state. In this state, it is state-run facilities, county and state-run facilities that we primarily deal with. Now, we as a municipality have to pay for somebody when we send them to the Eastern Regional Jail. We have to pay a fee per day for that person to be incarcerated.
This county?
Yes, every agency, except unless it's state charges. We put them in on a municipal charge. West Virginia still operates off of a magistrate system, and they have a municipal system. Okay, so if we charge somebody, and it would only be misdemeanors, if we charge somebody with a misdemeanor in the town of Shepherdstown, and it would be something that we would send them to jail or hold them in jail, we have to pay almost $50 a day for that person to be housed.
Damn. So it's quite expensive to hold people in prison.
Yeah, we don't like to send people to jail, but some people it is necessary.
Gotcha. One thing that is in a lot of debate among my peers that I've seen is how we should treat how should we rework the justice system to balance preventative punishment and rehabilitation, and how should we balance these two things, because it seems like prisons are so expensive. Something simple where people can simply rehabilitate, I guess. They have some of that in Europe.
And I'm going to give you a roundabout answer on that. Okay, I am just, as a police department, we are one factor of the criminal justice system. And I like to say that my expertise is not figuring out how to get them back onto the street and make them stay out of trouble. My job is to get the people who have created a problem to the judicial system and let them decide what happens to them. I don't take it personally if somebody doesn't go to jail or somebody does go to jail. That's not for me to decide. A judge has the ability to look at everything in their past and see what they have done, what they have squandered, what they have put to good use, and then make an informed decision on that. That's why the police don't make the last decision.
Gotcha. And in your opinion, is the the judicial system that you're sending people to, is it functioning very well?
Yeah, I think it's the best system that we have available to us right now. Are there things that at times I don't like? Sure. Are there things that we complain about? Sure. But all around, I think it's probably, when I look at what other countries are doing, yeah, I think it's probably the best thing we have available to us right now.
Yeah, there's some real
real barbaric situations going on.
Within that, how do you feel about the way that we treat both culturally and legally the mentally ill?
Which state?
I suppose this one.
Yeah, I would like to see that hopefully get reformed someday, because it's difficult the way that the laws are written to get somebody in for a mental hygiene, get them the help that they need.
Right.
I worked in another state prior to this, and as a police officer, we could actually take somebody into custody and take them to a hospital and have them evaluated by a doctor to determine whether they were a threat to themselves or to others.
Just loose criteria?
Example, somebody cuts their wrists. Okay. Maybe not deep enough to actually commit suicide, but I think we all know that most suicide attempts are an alert saying, I need some help.
Yeah.
Okay? Somebody truly wants to commit suicide, we're probably never going to know about it till it's done.
Sadly.
Okay? I've seen it too many times. So the person who does this light cuts on their wrist, in Maryland, I could pack them up and take them to a hospital, and they would have to be seen by a doctor who would determine whether they were a threat to themselves or others. So it takes it out of a person who has not really medical background, a police officer, puts it in the hands of somebody who has medical background.
Like the legal systems.
Yes. Now here, it's a little different. If I have somebody who's done this and they refuse to go to the hospital and they're not life-threatening injuries, they're free to walk away. Okay? Then I have to go down and file, or I have to get a sheriff's department, because by state law, they're the ones who should be doing it.
Right.
I have to file for an emergency, a mental hygiene hearing. Then they have to call a mental hygiene judge in to determine whether it's appropriate to issue it. And then once they get it issued, we have to go back now and find them, pick them up, and take them to the hospital.
And so they could have done something lethal.
Absolutely.
Do they usually do that, or?
Not typically. They don't usually do that. But do you see the big delay in treatment time? I mean, where is somebody gonna actually sit down and tell them what was on their mind? The second that after it has occurred, or 24 hours later, they've had time to think about it and say, I really wasn't that bad.
Right.
So the quicker we can get them there, the more chance we have of getting them to the right treatment.
Do you think that these people? I'm not sure if you'd be seeing this. What would actually help them? Like, would it help to have someone who's evaluating them, or should they get more of a therapist in a sense to just talk them about their life in the moment? Since we have this delay, is there a more compassionate way we could?
Well, the delay is only to get them to the doctor, and I think once we get them to the doctor, if we can get them to the doctor, that doctor has the necessary training to look at them and decide what is really going on with them, or have a good idea, get a good picture of what's going on with them, and can then make the proper referrals, or maybe even hold them, because in the other state, a doctor can order them held for 72 hours.
Right.
And can then put them in touch with mental hygiene professionals who can help to get them where they need to be.
I have a family member who was held for 72 hours, and she said it was the most traumatic period of her life just to be held.
Now, where was she held, and who?
That was Ohio.
In Ohio. See, and I'm not familiar with what Ohio does, but a lot of places now in the state, if they're deemed that they need to go somewhere, the hygiene can refer them to a mental facility for treatment.
And those mental facilities, do you think that they actually help people?
There's a lot of people that come back that get help. There's a lot of different things that we see. There are people who are given medication to take care of their mental hygiene.
Right.
Okay? and then they just simply refuse to take the medication. We can't require them to. We can't force them to.
Oh my gosh.
You understand what I'm saying?
So
the help is there, but sometimes the mental state doesn't allow you to take your medication.
Right. So it's kind of like with the opioids. So you can't.
Can't force them.
Right.
Can't force somebody to get medical treatment unless it is a life-threatening situation and they are unable to make a rational decision. Like an intoxicated person, let's say, who shoves his hand through a window and cuts his arm to the artery and he's bleeding out, can make that person go to the hospital because they're going to die otherwise.
So this is when we have mentally ill people. We have the opportunity to notice them and try to get them the help they need. But on a personal level, just living our lives, we come across we might befriend someone who's struggling with one of these things. Is there something we can, is there some strategy we can use to support them the best? Or?
Referrals we can make. Ask them if they need help, what's going on with them, if they're willing to talk to you, but the majority of the people are just not simply willing to talk to you or not able.
So just offer your ear.
A lot of times, that's all it takes. They're just looking for somebody to talk to. Treat them with kindness and respect. Treat them like you'd like to be treated until they give you a reason to treat them differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we have 1% rate of schizophrenia in basically all human societies.
I've seen more here than I have in 30 years at my other location.
Pennsylvania, Maryland. You were in New York for a time?
No, I was in Hagerstown. I worked in Hagerstown for 30 years. Came here. I've been here 9 years, and I have seen more people with schizophrenia in this small town that I've had to deal with than I did there.
How do you feel about marijuana? Recreational, is it a good idea?
It's a good idea if we take the funds and we use it towards health care.
Amen.
Okay,
Amen.
That's a good idea. I guess my age is still, I've been doing this for so long, it's hard to believe that it's okay, but there's too many states doing it, so I can't say that it's not okay.
You might have seen people who are, their mental health might be worsened.
I haven't seen it really have any drastic effect on anybody's health. And I've had this talk with my physician, my personal physician, who is a very good friend of mine. And he really doesn't have much of a belief in it either. But there are people who have belief in it. So let me give you an example, a different example. Okay? I have arthritis, so I go to my rheumatologist. And he asked me what I was taking over the counter. And at one point in time, I said chondroitin, which is shark cartilage, I think, or something like that. Whatever it is. But anyhow, he says, does that seem to help? I said, yeah, it seems to help me. And he says, well, there's scientific studies that say it doesn't do anything for you.
Placebo.
I said, really? He said, yeah. He says, but if you think it's helping you, maybe you should stick with it. So a lot of it could be mindset. If they feel they're getting something out of it and they feel better, okay. Now, and I've seen all the things. I've seen children with seizures, they put the marijuana oil on their tongue and, right. Let me say this. I think it probably needs a lot more study before they go to medicinal purposes, but I don't really think it's going to be something where people are going to go out here and shoot each other in the street for, like they do with cocaine and
meth.
Yeah, things like that.
Okay, good. Yeah, hemp is a lot of medical purposes. Sure. I know. So
yes.
I'm glad to have your take on the distinction between cannabis and hemp. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Okay, so thank you. By the way, let me know if this goes over your time limit you might have or anything.
I'm here till 5.
Great. Something else. You became a leader in this position as chief, right? Mm-hmm. And how long have you had this position?
4 years, I believe.
I think many people would argue that our country is in need of better leadership. Inspiring leaders who can help us take accountability for our actions and to inspire people and to show compassion as men, show compassion as women. Mm-hmm. Bridging these things. So I'm curious if there's any lessons you learned as a leader or anything you would say to yourself.
I just told you. treat everybody like you'd want to be treated until they give you a reason to treat them differently.
Rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb. You have a lot of time to be nasty with people. That's easy. It's a lot harder to be nice with people and help them through their problems.
Right.
And everybody likes a challenge.
So see everybody who is nasty to you as a challenge to show compassion for them.
And to see if maybe we can turn things around. You're talking, if we're talking police work, we're talking two different age groups. When you have a young police officer, I think they're naive, because all of us were. You're going to go in, you're going to solve the problems of the world, you know, and you know that's never going to happen, and everybody's going to listen to you, and you know that's never going to happen now, because you've been doing it for so long that most people are not going to listen to you, you know, and that's where they get that John Wayne syndrome from.
Like feeling badass.
Yeah, you know, you're going to listen to me because of who I am.
They get an ego with it.
Yeah. So as you get older and you do this job, it's always nice to know that we pride ourselves. There's three of us here that if you combine us, we've got 120 years of police work between the three of us. Okay? So we've been doing this for a long time.
Wow.
And we sit and we talk about, remember when we were young and how we used to have to fight people to get in handcuffs? Yeah, well, that doesn't happen too often anymore for a number of reasons. One, we got smarter and we know that we can talk to people. In most cases, you can talk a person into handcuffs if you have to, meaning they'll cooperate with you.
Right.
Okay? But if it comes time that you have to force them into handcuffs, we're old enough to know, too, that it really hurts us and it don't heal so fast anymore. So we'd really rather not do that.
To force people into handcuffs.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to the same thing. Treat people like you'd like to be treated till they give you a reason to treat them differently.
Do you think that people treat, police with respect
No.
on average?
No. On average in the country, no. Here, I'm very fortunate that we have a very good community. I think we are well respected by the community, and I think the community, we respect this community, I think, and I think we do a very good job for this community. Now, there were people who disagree that got tickets, but that's still part of the job, unfortunately.
Oh, dear. Yeah, there's, of course, stories. And, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it is. It's part of the job, unfortunately, but I would present it to you like this. A police officer's job is to enforce the law, and they can use discretion, but if they give everybody a break, it's never going to make any change.
No preventative.
Yeah, it's not gonna change a thing.
Can't be too nice.
Right, and when you walk in McDonald's, if you know the guy who's working behind the counter, does he just hand you your food for free every time you walk in and say, here you go, see you later? No, because he's got a job to do.
Right.
Just like us, we took an oath, we've got a job to do, and that's to enforce the law.
What quality should every police officer have?
Wow. Wow. Be compassionate.
Passionate about.
Be compassionate with people. You never know what situation you yourself is going to be in. And again, it goes back to that same old saying. Treat people like you want to be treated unless they give you a reason to treat them differently.
So to aspiring, police officers, this is a big job. It's really scary now because of some of the terrible things that people are doing, some of the controversy with race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you recommend this job to someone? Like, what would you say? Prepare them.
It's hard because I have seen this job go from, in 40 years, to something I never imagined it would be.
The controversy?
Yes, the controversy in the country, and I'm deathly afraid of where it's going to be in another 40 years. So I just tell them, be prepared for constant change. Be prepared to one day you did your job this way, the next day because of court rulings or something else in the country, you're doing it this way now. And I think that could be constant.
So be adaptive.
Absolutely.
Always prepare. Do you have to study laws and new laws all the time?
Well, we get briefed on them. Obviously, if there's laws are repealed or there are new laws that come out, yeah, and it's not so much of it's the ones that affect the way we conduct business, and that can be court precedents, search and seizure rules, things like that, they are constantly changing. That's an ever-evolving thing. It never stops.
Having a warrant and things like that?
Whether you need a warrant, whether you don't need a warrant, things like that, whether you need to knock on the door, whether you can boot the door open, whether you can go in and look for this person without a warrant.
Damn. Sort of a sidetrack. Did you get elected for this position?
No, this is not. This is I get appointed by the mayor.
Do you think that's how it should be done?
Yeah, because West Virginia is an at-will state. They can walk in as soon as we're done this and say, we don't need you anymore.
They can. Oh my gosh. If someone inherits the position, or
well, then they select a new person for it.
Damn. Interesting. One issue that is pretty prominent. We have so much respect for veterans in this country,
mm-hmm.
and there's obviously so much PTSD. There's drug use. They might not know how to go back to normal society after having that kind of brotherhood and various things. How can we support the veterans in our lives better?
Well, we get contacted by different veteran groups that are actually out doing that. So we have some referrals we can make to veterans that are having some issues, and we're fortunate enough that we have a VA center in Martinsburg that also has lots of referrals that they can get them the things they need. So everything is pretty close here. Very happy with that.
That's great. Individually, are we respecting them enough? I don't know.
Yeah, we try to show as much respect as we can for the veterans. There's no two ways about it. They put everything on the line.
Their families,
Sure.
A lot of them, I don't know, it seems like they can get alienated. They might not know how to go back. And, we of course feel for them, and especially prospecting people going into the military with, the possibility of a world war coming,
Yeah.
Speaking of World War III,
I don't think we're anywhere close.
Good. Is there anything
I think we're closer to a civil war in this country than we could be a world war. Because things are just crazy. I mean, it's just, everybody's doing this or everybody's doing that. It don't matter which side you're on. The other side's wrong.
I know and there's an overlap. Like the Republican side is starting to take on old democratic values and.
Yeah, and I don't seriously mean that I think there's going to be a civil war, but I mean there's a lot of suggested change. Criminal justice reform. Then there's others who don't want criminal justice reform. They want to. There's this. There's that. And it's just. I'm not sure. I think technology has made the ease of doing your own little speech for everybody. Okay, Facebook, for example, is. I had Facebook for a while. I got out of it. I heard a comedian say it the best I'd ever heard it. Facebook's a platform for people to make speeches who probably should never make speeches. But on the other hand, everybody gets a chance to voice their opinion, and unfortunately, I think that's where some of our issues have occurred. Social media has a direct result in the school shootings that have been happening across the country. There's no two ways about it.
So the people that are doing these shootings, they're isolated from the real people in their lives, and they're just venting on social media. They're isolated.
A lot of them have, as you know, filmed it live as it's happening, and posting it. Okay, and look, there's so much media and social media on these things that the next guy just wants to outdo the one before him. And that's scary. I mean, if you have kids and you're sending them to school, that's scary.
And we give them so much publicity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you tell how he did it. Like I said, well, I can outdo that.
Which news network would you pay attention to?
Oh, I don't know that I would say any of them's right or wrong. After the last election, I really don't have much faith in any of them because, there's just so much stuff that was put out that was just knowingly false. From both sides, it's just like, okay. I think you just got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I tell you what really annoys me is that, let me flip the question back to you. Of the news sources out there, and them stressing that they want Facebook to go over their Facebook accounts and not let people make posts that are not true,
Truth filtering.
Yes. So how are they going to filter themselves? Because they certainly don't.
Right. And even, studies that are coming out, we can use, I forget what the technique is, but we can cherry pick certain, research studies and not others. We can, literally corrupt the research studies. I'm sure many companies, the big monopoly companies do. Mm-hmm. So truth filtering at this point, I mean, what can we do? It's true we don't necessarily have a sure process at this point.
And with the Constitution the way it is, which is freedom of speech, freedom of press, it doesn't have to be true for you to print it or say it. If you want to say it, you can say it. And I'm not saying that's wrong.
Right. That's, of course, necessary for freedom.
Yeah.
Speaking of the First Amendment, how do you feel about the second one?
I think that I'm a big supporter of firearms.
Personal firearms, we should have them.
Yeah.
Should we have ARs, or should we limit the automatic quality?
We have a lot of gun laws in this country. I think if you start holding people accountable that create violations of the law, instead of taking them away from the law-abiding citizens who have never done anything.
So higher degrees of accountability through legal reprimands.
Right. I don't think that this state, as you know, is a big firearms state. They have concealed carry without a permit. I know there was a lot of opposition to that by chiefs of police. I don't really have an opposition to it because it did not change the way that we conduct business every day. You're trained from day one, even 40 years ago, before this was an issue. You're trained that everybody has a firearm. You treat them as such. When I say that, you're cautious.
Right.
Okay? Whether you can see it or not, they have one and you treat it as if they do. But nothing has changed, except we know that it's a stronger possibility that they may have a firearm.
And you ask them, sir, do you have a firearm?
And if the person says yes, in most instances you probably don't have to worry about them.
Because they're complying. They're already showing.
Absolutely.
Right.
So just because they say, no, I don't have a firearm, does that mean I have to believe them? Are they going to tell me the truth? No. If they're a criminal and they have a firearm they're not supposed to, they're not going to tell me they do.
Right. One argument that some people will make is that places like Japan, Germany, of course Britain with their lovely hats, they've gotten rid of guns a long time ago, mm-hmm. and our country was built, our freedom was built out of being able to rebel. The American War. I better not forget the name of that. Good God, American Revolution War. Mm-hmm. And so many people argue that we should begin to eliminate weapons just because there's sort of this degree of violence. It's inevitable. People will start using machetes, I guess, in other places. If they're going to do violence, they're going to do violence. At least we can reduce the degree of violence. And obviously many people in our culture, we believe in the Second Amendment so deeply because of this freedom, because of this deep familial, beliefs. And so, what would you say to that?
Well, let me ask you this. So Great Britain took away guns. How many people get stabbed to death over there each year? A lot.
That's a great question.
So are you going to take table knives, steak knives, and everything out of the homes now?
Right. So where's the boundary, right?
DUIs kill how many people in the United States? Are we going to take cars away?
Right. It's not the guns that are the enemies.
It's the people.
Right.
It's certain people, and that's who we have to deal with. And that goes back to your original question with me, is drugs and mental health.
So back to the family, back to the community, back to the personal.
It starts with the family. You're probably the right age, okay? When I say that, I'm almost 60 years old. So the family was a different structure 60 years ago than it is 30 years from then and today.
Right.
There's kids raising kids who have no idea how to be a parent.
Living on the welfare system.
Well, not necessarily that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just they didn't get the upbringing from their parents, so they got no parenting skills. They were never taught any parenting skills because of the way they were brought up.
So
and that seems to just keep passing on. So there's no accountability for children. I will tell you, 60 years ago or 55 years ago, when I was young, it was nothing for parents to smack their kids' rear ends.
But now...
And I'm not talking abuse,
just,
okay? Corporal punishment, just the minor stuff.
Right.
All right? Not leaving marks, not punching your kids out, things like that. Okay? Now, parents are afraid to correct their kids. You can sit here and you can listen on my radio in mornings. I have heard parents call the police because their 5-year-old's out of control. How does a 5-year-old get out of control that you have to call the police?
They want you to help with their
Absolutely.
minor.
9-year-old won't get on the bus. Want the police come to put him on the bus.
Oh my gosh.
How do you... This is somebody who has no parenting skills.
And they're alone raising this child.
Alone or together, it doesn't really matter. They're just as bad.
Like the nuclear family, this is a nuclear family problem versus a community problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're calling
Tell me a drain on resources. Because I have to come now put your 5-year-old and tell him he can't do what he's doing anymore. It's not a police matter.
So we need to have, we need to bring back, do you think, physical punishment?
No, and I'm not saying that. I say we need to teach parents how to deal with kids, how to raise children.
Do you think that a big part of parenting that we need to improve upon is how we communicate with them? Talking about their feelings, talking about what they're needing?
Yes, but also knowing what's expected and what's right and
Boundaries.
what's wrong.
Boundaries,
Absolutely.
ethics.
Absolutely. And it's not done. It doesn't have to be, the spanking. It can be timeouts, whatever. Whatever, taking the child's toy away for however long it is that he likes the most. You know what I mean? There's got to be, because not every child responds the same to each thing. But it's got to be something that that child knows that I don't want to do this again, or I'm not going to have this.
Some kind of conditioning.
Yes.
So families number one. 60 years ago, you mentioned that family was very different than it is today. 30 years ago, we still have nuclear families. One thing that I noticed in my generation is that the students, they're leaving. They end up alone. They end up this is what leads to the conditions of feeling suicidal. You don't have a support network. You might not have learned how to make friends.
Right.
And so we're so much more isolated today. It's what I notice.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is different, especially?
The demands on a student.
So much more stress, right?
Yeah, I mean, my daughter's a teacher, okay? And the stuff that she teaches at the level that she teaches at is unbelievable.
What?
She's 4th grade teacher, okay? They learn stuff that I used to learn in high school. And they're cramming it onto these kids. And sometimes I think maybe it's, did we really give them a chance to be a kid, too?
Where's the fun, right?
Yeah.
And learning, especially, where's the fun in learning?
Yeah, it's got to be there. It's all, we could solve the whole world's problems according to me here today, but I mean, it seems like schools have gotten away from so many things that used to be the simplest of things. How to tell time. Not all clocks are digital anymore. There's a lot of kids don't know how to look at a clock with hands on it and tell you what time it is.
Yeah, I had to learn it. I had to learn at 16.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, that was one of the first things we learned in school. How to write a check. Did they teach you how to write a check in school?
No.
Yeah.
I had a business class in that.
Right. They're more worried about test scores and where the funding's coming from. Because the higher the test scores, the more funding you get.
Because so the schools, they're the public. Like, we're talking about public schools here.
Sure.
They rely on this standardized testing for their funding.
Yeah.
And so they're appealing just to that. Education.
They're teaching according to that test.
Right. And I learned.
Every state's doing the same thing. It's not just this state; it's every state. Because I've got a stepson who's in Pennsylvania, and he's doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing.
West Coast, yeah. And it's been that way for a number of years. I don't know how long it's been. More complex, yet not in the right ways, right?
Yeah, it's more complex, and is it overload? Is there too much trying to get done?
Right. So the sophistication of the material, and not even sophistication, just the depth of memorization the kids need to have. today compared to 60 years ago is way bigger.
Yeah, and I think they're smarter kids too because they know a whole lot more too. Granted, some of the education part is working because they are smarter kids.
It's true.
They've got, but this world has also said you need to know more at an earlier age.
Yeah, you got to be creative now.
Mm-hmm.
I heard something about this generation. It's the creative generation. All about innovation, especially within programming. Where they're teaching kids programming, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that kids should have a lot more freedom in terms of their learning process?
No, I think kids at that age need a structured environment.
Sorry?
I think kids at that age, the younger age, need a structured environment. They need structured learning. Because let's face it, that's what makes you a better adult, is to be somewhat structured in your life.
Right. Learning how to organize, learning how to manage.
Manage your time appropriately. Things like that.
So we do have such complex lives. I'm sure that's another thing that's gotten. What's one way that you simplify things in your life as a leader? Responsibilities.
Well, I'm very fortunate that I have as far as a leader of this department, I have a very good group of guys that work with me. These are guys that have been in law enforcement for a long time. They know how to do their job. They do a good job. They have the public in mind. They look at it as a service. So I'm fortunate. Not every agency has that, so I can't speak for every agency.
They don't live in fear the way that a police department in Chicago might, right?
Yeah, no. We have the ability we have monthly staff meetings, so we have the ability to discuss problems, issues that come up, ways we're dealing with things. So if we need to change something, we can do that. And I think you have to have guys that are old enough. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes change, and cops are even worse. Cops don't like change, especially younger cops, because they just got used to doing it this way. Now you're telling me I got to do it another way.
More learning.
Okay, but cops have been doing this for a long time. Like everybody I have here, have gotten used to that everything's going to change constantly. So they're more susceptible and they're more readily accepting that change. So it's easier to institute and move forward.
They learn to be adaptive, right?
Yes.
It's a fast-changing world.
Yeah, by the time you get really good at it, it's time to retire.
Damn. Is that good? Should people stay on longer?
No. Yes and no. It depends on where you're working at. This is not. If I was in Hagerstown, I would not still be here at this age.
This is simpler around here. Right?
It's you still have the potential that it's going to happen, but not the frequency.
So with a bigger city, more stuff going on, then you deserve to retire younger.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think would be a good average?
Burn out real quick. 25 years. Yeah. And each agency in each state has their own system. Like some it's, 25 years early retirement, 30 years, or 20 and 25, and then they have age and years of service combinations, things like that, before you hit your retirement age.
So support, having a good team, keeping communication, that's the way to simplify.
Absolutely. Makes it easy here.
One of the things that I really respect about the police force, especially when they treat it like a service, and the military especially, is you learn, I think, two things that come about, which is integrity and brotherhood, how to treat each other as brothers, how to look out for each other. And as a civilian, I was raised by a single mother, and I had no idea, how to be a man.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if there's a lesson that, a decision, a rite of passage maybe, or some kind of thing that young men today can learn to be better, caretakers, men.
It's so difficult because people sometimes look in the wrong directions for mentors, and then they look in the right direction for mentors.
Like ISIS.
Well, even within, I've been doing this for so long. When I first came on, I had people that I looked up to that were obviously not people I should be looking up to in this line of work. So, say be very careful who you pick as your mentor and who you want to somewhat model yourself as. It came to a point I learned early in my career that, okay, here's what I'm going to do. This is what I like about this guy. I'm going to try and institute that because it works well for me. The things that he does that I don't like, I'm never going to do.
So cherry pick good qualities.
Yeah. Observation. I mean, we're constantly learning. It's just nothing more than, we just constantly learn from each other.
And you already said one of the most important, or the most important quality for an aspiring, person in this type of career field is compassion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, to row up on a wreck and see somebody bleeding and them ask you, am I going to die? And you know they are. Or it's high likelihood that they will. You have to say the right things. And you can't promise them they're not gonna. I can't promise anybody they're not gonna die because I'm not God. I don't know what's gonna happen.
And don't lie to them, right?
I don't lie to them. You can say your injuries are pretty serious, but I'm gonna do everything I can to help you out of here. Just give them that comforting, I mean, it's as simple as that. Again, if you're in that situation, how would you want to be treated?
Right, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, and we don't always do it right. Everybody gets it wrong. Everybody makes mistakes. It's, some mistakes you can live with. When I say live with, for example, maybe you say something to somebody you shouldn't have said in this line of work. You're probably just going to get told, don't do that again. Okay? But we've all seen on TV, it's happened, fortunately not too often, but it does happen occasionally. Where a cop, I don't know what they're thinking, they draw their gun and they shoot the person in the back that's running away from them. What the hell were you thinking?
Right. You ruined the reputation for us all.
Yeah, that's a mistake we're not going to come back from.
Do you think that those types of cops, are they looking out for each other too much? Or they cover up types of things?
I think that the days of the cops looking out for each other are long gone.
So people are more isolated.
True cops, good cops, they don't want bad cops in with them. Because eventually you get drug into their crap. Just simply because you're there. And it's not worth it.
Right. They'll stoop you down to their level.
Yeah, you get drug in. Well, and you don't even have to come to their level. I mean, let's say the two of you go on a call, okay? And he starts doing something that's completely inappropriate and against the rules, okay? If you don't step in, you're now in it too.
You're an accomplice.
Yes. And you really don't even have to say anything. And you could have been the best cop in the world up to that point.
Damn it, bad cops.
Yeah, they drag us all down. They create issues for us. And I would say 99% of the cops are good, because as many as you have out here, they are putting it on the line. We all have bad days, just like anybody else. Okay? I don't care where you work. You're not going to be all bubbly every time you deal with somebody. Okay? And it's the same here, where somebody will say something and maybe you take it the wrong way and you take it, what did he say? What did he say to me? Something like that. When it's really not that way.
You also have, something I've noticed, everywhere is people just don't like cops. They don't have this automatic sense, we should respect this type of position. We should have respect for these people. I mean, just, a certain family that I'm not familiar with has an issue.
And I'm not really sure it's an issue, because here's what I've seen happen, okay? Cop shows up and they decide something has to be done. The first thing we hear is, why do I have to do that? Why are you arresting me? No, you have to explain it to me. We don't have time for that. There are some things that have to be done, like right now.
Right.
And that the obvious reasons may not be obvious to them, but they are to us.
So comply always.
Compliance will get you a long ways. I mean.
Yeah, it seems obvious, to me. Oh man, I know some people. I've had friends who just they start getting antsy. They start arguing.
Yeah. After my rights, you can't do that to me. I know my rights.
And they won't, they just keep talking.
Right, but that's not the place to argue it. In court, if your rights were stepped on, that's the place to bring it up, because that's where the remedy is. It's not right there at that moment.
Right. So people, we need to show cops more respect.
Like I say, I think we all could use a little bit of change. How's that?
Yeah.
I think we meet each other in the middle somewhere. How's that sound?
Yeah. What's one serious red flag for domestic abuse?
Well, now, what do you mean red flag? Because we see women we know have been beaten. We go on calls. They've got marks, and they will tell us that nope, that's not what happened. I fell, or I did this. That's a week old. That's not what happened. That sends up red flags all over the place.
Well, okay, so why do they do that?
Because they don't want to see their husband get arrested, and there's various reasons for that.
Right.
Various reasons.
And it's like an
fear. The person paying the bills is now going to get arrested and lose his job. Where does that put me? Things like that.
Right. And where does that put them? I mean, if they're clearly being abused, I mean, what can...
Hang on just a minute, I'm sorry. Oh, that's another number. Go ahead.
If they are being abused, what do you do if they can't really provide for themselves? If they're kind of
Well, there are agencies and organizations out here that will give them some assistance, and we have.
And the kids as well.
Yes, absolutely. There's safe houses we can get them to, things like that.
And so they need to
get
know
back
this.
on their feet.
They need to know this.
And we give them that. Okay, even if we are on a domestic, we advise. We give it most of the time in writing as to what their options are, what's available to them,
Right.
things like that.
Good. Yeah, I mean,
domestic violence used to be one of the main causes of homicide in the country. That has been drastically reduced because of the proactive approach that the legislators have taken and law enforcement has taken towards domestic violence. The laws are written almost now that in almost everywhere you go, that if there is evidence of domestic abuse, the officer shall arrest. It doesn't give you the option.
good. So they have that. They have that power.
The teeth is in the law for that. Yes. In fact, a lot of officers are going to get in trouble if they don't.
And kids are adequately protected, you think?
It's domestic. It's not just husband and wife.
Right.
So it could be a child on the parent or a parent on the child.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They're cohabitants. They don't have to be romantically involved. It's cohabitants.
As a citizen, I feel very disconnected from my voting rights, from the legal process as a whole. It just feels complicated. People my age, they feel just disconnected and confused by the whole process of trying to be a part of the democratic process, right? Mm-hmm. And in fact, I've seen a study that young people are the ones who are not voting the most. It's the old people who are voting for these candidates. How can we feel more involved? How can we, are there issues that we should be voting on as young people? And
I don't know. The only thing I would tell you is do your own research and figure out what is best for you, because that's what you're voting on, how it's going to affect you, and that's what most people vote, or how it's going to affect the whole country.
Yeah.
And how do you feel is the best way to go on that? And that's, why do you think that young people aren't voting? Is it because they think their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't make any difference?
I think it's both indifference in that way, they feel powerless, but also like beyond the political process in their own lives, they feel powerless, I think. And it's just the scale of that.
How many years ago was it that the big push went on for the young people to register and vote? How many years ago was that? 12 years ago?
I'm not sure. I was 8 then.
Yeah, okay. So it was a long time ago that there was a big push for young people to get involved. I think they've made it pretty easy to register to vote, but fortunately voting is like a lot of other things. You have to make your own decision there on what is right for.
Think for yourself.
Yeah, and what you're going to vote for and what you're not going to vote for. Make sure you try to get as many facts as you can before you make a decision.
So your advice, you don't have specific, you're not going to specifically talk about any particular issue. You're going to say, think for yourself as advice to any young people.
Well, sure, I might talk it out with people.
Right.
Hey, what do you think of this? Well, what do you think that they're trying to pass this for? You know?
About the specific laws in place.
Yeah, about things that you're going to be voting for. What do you think of this person who's running for this office? How do you think he will be? Because I do that.
Can I ask you about our current executive branch, what you think we should be voting for?
I can't legally do that. It's against my rules and regulations to tell you that.
You're not allowed to tell you your opinion?
I'm not allowed, while I'm working in uniform or with that cruiser, to support any candidate.
Oh my gosh. That's interesting. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think it is. Because to so many people, the police are a symbol of authority. And if you've got some type of an election campaign sticker, something like that, or I'm giving you advice who to vote for, a lot of people will say, well, so-and-so told me to vote for that. That's the only reason I did it. You know, because they are somewhat of an authoritative figure.
Oh my gosh. There's definitely irony in that, I feel like. I mean, I guess, yeah, I can definitely see how that's, you're a symbol of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And of...
But what may suit me may not suit you.
Right. What supports your personal...
Yeah. Yeah, because I look at things, when I look at a candidate for whatever they're doing, I look at, do they support the police?
Absolutely. Do they
That's important to me. But that may not be important to you.
And so when everyone acts in their own self-interest, do you think it sort of balances?
I think it does. Sure. We're a democratic country. That's what it's all about.
Do you think that prisoners should be able to vote?
Convicted felons? Or people in jail?
In jail.
No. You're there for a reason.
So they're giving up their liberties, and that's one of them.
You had as much chances and as much right to everything as I did, and every opportunity was there for you, just like it was for me. If you didn't take and make use of it, that's on you. If you did the wrong things, that's on you.
Is the executive branch the only thing you specifically aren't allowed to voice your opinion on?
No, any elections for anything.
Any election. Okay. Damn. How do you feel about Social Security, welfare?
Well, now that I'm Social Security, that I can see it in sight.
So
I say Social Security. You mean that I can now see it? It's right around the corner for me, so it's in sight. So it's very important for me.
Right.
Yeah, it's very important for me.
How about the medical or the welfare branch?
Well, the medical, I think we just talked about that with the marijuana.
Yeah.
I think that medical prices are just, people can't afford what's going on. There's very few people that can afford. I mean...
Do we need universal health care, free for all?
I'm not sure that's the answer to it, because somebody's going to pay the price.
The taxpayer.
Yeah, eventually we're still going to pay the price for it. And I'm not sure that is the answer. Let's look, if we do that, like Canada, cigarette and beer tax, alcohol tax is what pays for their health insurance.
Right.
Okay? Colorado, they use their proceeds from their marijuana sales.
Huge amounts of money.
It's huge. It's huge. So there's a benefit to it.
Yeah.
You know? I think that it's... I mean, there's so many people out here that probably don't go to the doctor because they can't afford it, and that's sad.
My own family.
I don't know that I have the answer to that, because that's above my pay grade to figure out.
I know. I'm asking you.
Yeah, how we're going to do that. Because I could say, oh yeah, we should have it, but I don't think it's feasible. I don't think we, as a country, could afford it.
And we have a candidate who's, in the two-party system, who's actively, arguing for that. I've seen a study done that, neither of us can really speak to this, I realize, but that it would save billions if we had universal health care for various reasons. And so I think that's definitely something we need to get.
What about your quality of doctors?
Yeah, I have no idea.
And are you going to be told you have to go to this doctor because he is the one we are paying for? Or are you going to be free to go to whatever doctor you want and still have free care?
Like if he's on Medicaid or...
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Do we really even know that out of it? Will I be able to keep my doctor? Or will I have to go to one that's closest to me where I live in this state?
Oh my gosh. The minor conveniences, yeah.
It's all things to think about.
Right.
I mean, the littlest things baffle you at times, but
I definitely, that's just why, I feel so overwhelmed trying to, analyze a lot of these things and understand who I should be voting for. And
mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I can see why people are confused.
how about our welfare? Are we giving it out too freely? Should we give money at all, or should it be something else?
I think the welfare. When I hear people who have lived on welfare their whole life, I have an issue with that.
Yeah, ethically, absolutely.
Ethically, I have an issue with that.
Especially if they're kids, if they're using their kids to get more money.
Right. And I think that welfare should be looked at as a limited use type thing. And I'm not saying what time period, but if the person comes and they're getting near their end of their time period where they can no longer collect and they say, I really can't find a job, they may need to go to get some job training somewhere, and maybe they could help them do that and then put them in, you know what I mean?
So we should have a requirement
that they truly actively seek employment. And
right.
If it's training that they need, then they get assistance with some training.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I've heard an argument that we should have a human right of shelter, food, and water, clean water as an availability for Americans before we start helping other countries. I've heard that as well. But we should have those as rights, so we're not fighting for basic survival anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I know so many people are just terrified because, like, what the hell am I gonna do? I fucked this up. I messed this up, and I'm on the streets.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also know too from experience that there are people, even if I can find them a place to live, they won't go. They want to live like that.
Yeah, I've met that too.
So you see what I'm talking about. So what do you do with them? Are we going to force them now? They can't do this?
I lived in Las Vegas for 10 years, and most people on the streets have a mental illness. Mm-hmm. And that ties back into how do we treat these people? What do we give them?
Yeah.
And I've heard an argument from a man in New Orleans who lived there his whole life that we should give all homeless people the choice of like shelters where you have volunteers cleaning it, and you have a bed, you have water, you have food available, you have people organizing that, and that should be a human right. We should start to do this.
Okay. So where's that fund's going to come from? Somebody's going to pay the bill.
Right. And I figure that's got to be so much cheaper than a lot of things we're doing now. I mean, if they end up in prison, for example.
And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, where's the money going to come from? Because eventually, you as a taxpayer are going to pay it, and are you going to be happy with that?
Would you, if you knew that?
Depends on the person.
So if they have a offense of a felon, for example.
That's not necessarily what bothers me, an offense that they are a felon, because I do believe people can reform. I've seen it happen. I've seen people turn their entire life around, and very proud of what they've done. So that has nothing to do with it, whether they're a convicted felon or not. I think people who are able to work and use in the system, they're the ones who frustrate me.
They are able to work, but they're not.
They just choose not to because somebody else is taking care of them.
So freeloaders who truly
do exist.
And they're just, taking.
Right, and you can see that. You've seen that, and not everybody. I'm not saying everybody, but there are people who are quite capable of working and say, the heck with it, I'm not. I'll just sit home here and collect money. Well, you know what? I'd like to do that too.
That actually ties into an interesting philosophy that I think about. And that is, if we gave everyone the option to, not have to worry about basic survival, they always have the choice to go to the government, go to a public place, shelter, food, water. That's a right, a liberty, right? Mm-hmm. Would people work? No. Would society still function?
Well, eventually they're probably not. You're going to see a slow trickle, I think, at first.
So we know that jobs like yours, jobs that, people handling the cleanliness, the plumbers of this world, people who make society tick, these jobs have such a degree of respect when you start to have these jobs, when people are no longer doing them. Mm-hmm. And so with that, do you think that would...
I don't think it would be just with this job. I think it would be the whole country. The whole country would just collapse. it would be a slow process where the country would collapse if nobody starts working. You know what I mean? If it's recognized it's okay not to work.
If,
and we're just going to support you throughout, you know, you don't have to worry about anything.
So people would not choose to work, you think? It wouldn't be in, you know...
I don't think everybody would, because it just goes against some people's grain that they're just, I'm not like that, I'm not going to do that. And when I sat here and said, yeah, I'd like to do that too, I really can't. I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm not wired that way, if you know what I'm saying. Again, from my upbringing, the way I was taught, this is what I should be doing, is a job and earning my way through.
This is the responsibility that you...
This is my responsibility. Sure.
Yeah. That's one thing a lot of people don't talk about very much, along with accountability, you know, domestically, yada, yada. We don't talk about duty and the duty that we choose and, you know, to society and to ourselves. There's so many rebellion movements, which, you know, like, I don't know, punk and goth and, you know, these various things, which I believe in. I agree with the rebels against many things. We're also not remembering what we are a part of as a society and what we're... So...
Yeah, okay. Any group can pretty much... The punk, the goth, that doesn't...
Yeah, it's not about that.
It doesn't bother me, but it's not about that.
Right.
It's what you do with your life, and it's what you do with what's yours. If you have a child, do you raise that child in an appropriate way? Do you care for that child in an appropriate way? Do you meet that child's needs in an appropriate way?
Caretaking, respect for others.
Exactly. Your parents, that has been forgotten by so many people. You know, it used to be a thing as children took care of their parents when they got elderly and their own kids.
And it still happens in other societies.
And it happens a lot, but it happens a lot less than it used to.
Get out of the house when you're 18 and...
You're done. You moved away cross country and I fly back once a year. Something like that. You know?
I can't imagine, you know, how it'd feel to be on the verge of retirement and you think, you know, maybe I don't have community. How do I get, you know...
And a lot of people have reasons that they do that, and I understand that. You know? For me, I couldn't do that.
You couldn't tell your kids to move out when they're 18? Or...
No, my door's always open for my kids if they need help. I don't care what they've done.
I know personally some families, you know, they're not taking mental health into consideration. They're just saying, get a degree,
right? Get
it done.
Yeah.
And do you think that we should give, you know, people my age a break? Give them, say, you know, take a year if you need it, take 2 years. You know, focus on your mental health if you need to.
Yeah. Look, like I said, my door's open for my kids at all times. If they need something, door's open. If they've done something wrong and they're in trouble, my door's open. We'll talk about it, but I'm not necessarily going to agree with you. But we'll face the music together. It won't just be, I say, get out of here and go.
Yeah, because the law is the law, right?
Well, it's not only that, but everybody should have to stand up for what they've done. It's your mistake. You got to take responsibility for it. It may not be exactly as they say, and it may not be exactly as you say. Somewhere in the middle is the truth.
And that's what a jury is for, right?
Yeah, jury, judge, or whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to take responsibility for it.
Right. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. You know, we have so much anxiety. I think 65% of young people say they experience, you know, moderate anxiety, and then another really scary statistic for severe anxiety, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, depression, and people come out of college not knowing how to balance their lives, how to...
Yeah. And that goes back to just what we were saying. Me as an older person, I don't understand that because it wasn't like that for me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have all that stress on me. I didn't have to learn all this in a short period of time like you did in school. And it just kept continuing and mounting and snowballing and everything continuing on. So it's difficult for the older people to understand that sometimes.
Do you feel like you've always belonged somewhere? Like belonging to your family, belonging to your community, belonging to your country? Do you feel like you've had, you know, a community spirit?
Yeah, my family we're pretty close, and yeah, I think Community.to, we look out for the community with our job, so we feel like we're part of this community, and we have a responsibility for what happens in it.
Does it help that it's a smaller place versus Hagerstown?
Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot different type of work. And I don't mean just what you deal with. I mean everything. Everybody in this town knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody else is doing and what they're not doing. You know, it's different up there. And Hagerstown's not a big town, but it was a lot different up there because 35,000 people versus 1,800 people. Big difference.
Yeah, oh my God.
And then if you go to someplace like Baltimore, I don't know how they keep their sanity down there, trying to keep track of what's going on.
Oh my gosh. LA, Las Vegas, the cops, just exhausted.
I've been to LA and Las Vegas. Just 2 years ago, I was down in Las Vegas, yeah. I don't know. Look, there's crazy stuff going on there.
Got that right. Yeah. I mean, we had the biggest mass murdering spree in the whole country history.
Yeah. Jason Aldean concert.
I was out there, I was buskering, playing guitar 2 nights before, a street nearby.
Really?
And then that fear, when you realize that that your country, this is the state of it, and we don't see these problems in other places. Like, for me, I wanted to say, what can I do? What responsibility can I take just as a citizen? Become informed. That's what I've heard you say.
But you as a citizen, as much younger, you've had to live your life through these things happening. School shootings, mass shootings, cars driving down through crowds of people.
I was born in the wake of 9/11.
So you realize that I have to be aware of my surroundings. This is the world that I've lived in. I had to be aware of everything that's going on around me. I didn't come from that. We didn't have those issues. So I've had to adjust to it.
Damn it, Boomer.
But there'll be different adjustments for you. That's the thing.
Yeah. And my kids, I can only imagine what they're going to face.
Yeah. And that's what I keep saying. I don't know what my kids and my grandkids are going to face. It's just scary.
If they'll even be able to survive in this world's climate,
See, that's a different debate, too.
Oh, of course, It's one of the reasons that everything, feels so important to talk about, get, circulation.
I have a problem with the climate control thing, or the climate change.
Like environmentalists or the...
No, I have a problem with it that I don't think there's enough history on what the climate has done. The scientists have shown that throughout years, like in the desert where they find fish fossils, how could that possibly happen if the climate hasn't changed multiple times?
Interesting.
Think about that.
I definitely need to do more research about climate.
And I'll have people argue with me. We fellow sitting out here, and he believes in the climate change, and it's not arguments, we just have debates about it. Well, the smartest scientists in the world say we have climate change. Yeah, but when I went to high school, the smartest scientists in the world said there were 7 planets in our solar system. That's not true either anymore. So I fire that one back at him.
I mean, you saw computers.
Yeah, there was no computers when I was in school.
So, I mean, even that level of science, that level of possibility, it's...
Yeah, it wasn't even thought of.
Yeah, I think that's scientific.
If you had a calculator, that was something.
That was kind of the reason for college in the beginning, if I remember, is that you had computers and you had information accessible on them. And, with that no longer being the case...
Yeah. Now you see how old I feel. And where do you think it's going to be?
In regard to college and...
everything, life. Where are you going to live? In 40 years from now, where will you be?
If you ask me where in 5 years I want to live, I would tell you that because I grew up without feeling like I belong anywhere, without feeling like I have a community that I'm looking out for and that's looking out for me, I would say that I think that we need to transform our lives to live more like we did ancestrally, more like humans evolved to live with communities. And, I'm getting a great example that you might take for granted, I guess, in this place. It's, or not, I have no idea,
Do you even think you'll be living on this planet in 40 years?
In 4 years?
40 years.
40? Because of who I am, I don't necessarily find it highly likely that I'll live that long. But also just because I don't know what kind of war, I don't know what kind of...
40 years will go by in a blink, you know that.
40
years go by in a blink.
However, with the compound growth of population, One of the things I've heard a conspiracy theory about is that we'll need some kind of, like this coronavirus, might be some government, some kind of thing to filter the population a bit, right?
Yeah.
So I if someone found it ethically truthful to say, okay, we need to get rid of half the population, do a Thanos type of thing, I can see the ethics for that. And of course, I don't believe in that at all, but.
It's just human nature to have the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Literally, I've investigated a lot of suicides, not here, but I ran criminal investigations. So I ran a detective bureau, so we did a lot of that stuff. There was not one suicide I didn't have a conspiracy theory to. And not me, but people would bring it to me. The family, things like that.
Denial.
I'd rather have a homicide than I would a suicide. It was easier to explain to the family.
I know we have a citizen here whose son was killed and stuffed in his own trunk.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how that dad.
Yeah, no, I couldn't handle that. That's something that's nearest and dearest is my family to me. That would be very difficult. Very difficult.
What can we do to support these people in our community that have lost?
Compassion.
Back to the Dalai Lama.
Just have compassion with them, sit down and talk to them, and if they want to talk about it, sit there and listen. If they don't want to talk about it, then help them through their day.
All right, this is a wild card. You obviously don't have to answer this, but what's going to happen to you when you die?
What's going to happen to me when I die?
Do you believe
I don't
in?
know. I'll let you know once I'm dead.
No, you won't.
That's just it. None of us know until we're dead.
Are you religious?
I believe in God.
Do you believe the Earth is 5,000 years old?
I think the Earth is. Okay, so I throw that one to you. Which do you believe? Because the scientists say it's millions of years old.
Right. I was in biology for a bit. In basic science, for the scientific method, states at least 5.4 billion years, I believe. Could be completely off on that. And I believe that science. We have geological records. So God outside of our universe, probably.
Yeah, I think everybody wants. If you look at it, every religion believes in at least one higher being somewhere. Every religion pretty much believes in one higher being.
To
somewhere.
anthropomorphize the esoteric nature of our existence.
It's just hard to believe that maybe we morphed from some bug crawling across the ground, and this is what we are nowadays.
I'm more interested in the primordial soup hypothesis. Did we come from a geothermal vent, having some kind of organic molecule, or did an asteroid come from?
How do we know that our world, as we claim it is, it's not a molecule just floating around in something else?
And because time is so relative, it could just be a drip, and our entire universe is just.
That's right. Exactly.
The exponential growth of the universe, the expansion, just melding into the.
So when I'm dead, I'll do my best to let you know. How's that?
So you don't have like a religious denomination of choice?
No, not really.
One thing that I'm also noticing in this world, and people my age especially, God, we the nihilism, which I would argue is the extreme of theism, the opposite extreme, balance being purpose, community, we don't know, agnosticism. And one of the things that comes with this nihilism is just, what's the point of anything? People don't feel like they belong anywhere, so that brings back to community, and also they don't know what to believe in, they don't find themselves to be good people, they don't know what to follow in this way of ethics,
Okay, so is that because of a world that is changing so fast they can't keep up?
Certainly in part, right?
Yeah. I think the last probably 20 years technologically have been some of the biggest advancements in this world.
Do you think we're on the verge of a huge breakthrough, chain, compound growth of, research? And
Yeah, I think they're on the verge with, as again my rheumatologist said about, the DNA, your DNA makeup. They'll be able to predict what diseases you're going to be looking at.
Yeah, the Human Genome Project was completed very recently.
Yeah,
and then
and how to deal with it, and the old Star Trek thing where they run the machine over you, and they know what's wrong with you. Well, it might not be so unrealistic someday.
Yes.
It might not be just like that, but you know what I'm saying. It may. I mean, I think that if you said 40 years or 50 years ago we're doing stem cell research.
And the potential for that, I mean.
Yeah.
Human heart.
Yeah. And then something as simple as a virus right now is causing the panic that we have.
Do you think it's justified, the coronavirus right now?
I think it has the potential. I think anything like that has the potential to get out of hand because, I mean, if you stop and think about it, there are bacteria that are now resistant to the antibiotics that they use and so forth.
That's a certain amount
it's
of
a
years.
part of evolution, So we're going to have other things like this come up if we get through this one, which I have no doubt we'll get through this one. I have no doubt we'll get through this one. I don't think it's as... Right now, we have not heard a word from the state of West Virginia or even the local health department, and that's kind of who we take our guidance from. You can use the simplest precautions right now, and that's what they have on the internet is wash your hands for 20 seconds, good soap and water, things like that.
Don't shake people's hands.
Don't shake people's hands, absolutely. Minimize your immediate contact with people. If somebody's coughing, you want at least 6 feet.
And the molecules of this virus last for a week.
Yeah, they're saying now it can go from it can evolve in as early as 2 days or as long as 14 days, I think.
Unpredictability.
Yeah. So
I'm glad to,
But I think the scientists will. I don't think it's ready to throw up the red flag and jump in the ship and say, okay, we're going down. It's nothing like that yet.
Yeah, I just worry about old people,
Sure, I do. Why is it avoiding children?
Is it?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're not seeing the mortality with the children.
Interesting. I hear it's a super flu, so...
Yeah, and we have the flu, and the flu kills a number of people, not the same percentage as that have it now.
I think 5 times less.
That's percentage ratio. We just don't have a lot of people that's been diagnosed with it yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, in the States especially.
A lot more people get the flu. There are a lot more people that die from the flu than have died from the coronavirus right now, but the ratio is not as high because so many people get the flu.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I have things to worry about because my wife has a compromised immune system, so I have to worry about that, compromised immune system. So.
Damn. Yeah. So you're not gonna, we probably shouldn't.
We don't wear masks outside. We're not doing anything different right now.
Don't stock up for. Don't worry about stocking up yet.
I'm not saying that. Everybody's gonna do what they think's right. I would never tell anybody if you're stocking up. I'm just not saying that I would do that because if I decide to do it, I wouldn't want somebody to tell me, well, you're crazy, you shouldn't be doing that. It's up to you. If you like to do that, you stock up. Great, you'll be eating beans for the next 15 years.
Yeah. Hey, at least it's good for you. We need more fiber.
Yeah. Beans are good. I'm good with it.
Well, speaking of technology, genetic engineering progressing, do you have any major concerns coming down the pike or currently with technology regarding law enforcement, crimes?
No, DNA. Technology hurts law enforcement.
It hurts it.
Yeah, I think so. It hurts us in court. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. For a long time, when DNA was first coming around, and people watch CIS or NCIS and crap like that on TV.
Right.
They take the swab, and 15 minutes later, they know whose it is. That's not real life.
Phony forensics.
Yeah, it's not real life, and it got to the point where we would be prosecuting cases, and juries would find people not guilty because there was no DNA evidence or there was none of this, when it really wasn't there to be had in the first place.
So we're getting less accurate.
I think juries are dependent on it. They're not willing to take the police's word that this is what I saw, this is what I did. Well, give me scientific proof, give me that DNA.
How do you feel about police car cameras?
We don't have police car cameras. We were the first agency that I know of, municipal agency in this state, to have them. We've had them for over 5 years.
You have had them?
Yes.
It's good.
Yes. Yeah, actually, what I think about them is it did the exact opposite of what people thought.
What did they think it would do?
It didn't go where they thought it would show a lot of police corruption. It showed how people can really act like idiots at times.
Like bumbling.
It's the stuff we see. No, the stuff when we're dealing with someone and they're acting like a flaming idiot. They're now seeing what we saw at that particular time.
Good.
So I think sure, it has shown some bad situations for law enforcement, but I think the ones that it exonerated officers. Every one of my guys back here has said, "Man, I wish I had these 30 years ago." It would have exonerated us without question. We wouldn't even have been talked to find out what happened because they could have just watched the video.
Yeah. It sucks that people don't trust you guys as much with the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what it is. I understand that. They've had, maybe some of them have had reasons not to trust us, Not everybody that doesn't trust us has had those reasons. Or maybe they have something to hide, that's why they don't trust us.
So, one thing that's currently happening with such a changing world is how quickly job market, like what we're studying in college, is never up to date with what's actually needed.
Yeah.
Like, God, computer science right now is so behind with the adaptive field, like we were saying. So one thing, have you noticed any emerging, for young people in high school, ready to go into the workforce, is there any job area that they should really look into, either ethically or financially?
I think renewable energies is going to be obviously something. We are never going to not need healthcare.
Nursing and
yep. So healthcare, and I'll be honest with you, I think that the teacher profession is about to take a big hit. I really think so.
Oh yeah, with the online education and
yeah, they're going to take a big hit, and it's not the teachers' fault, but I think people are not going to be satisfied when it goes the route they think it's going to go.
The route they think it's going to go.
Yeah, with not being able to hire teachers.
Do you think the role of a teacher is going to change dramatically?
Has to. Has to.
Yeah, absolutely. Guiding students instead of teaching them, right?
Well, and unfortunately, again, it goes back to the home. So many people look at it as, so many young parents look at it as a place they're babysitting my kid all day long. They really don't care if they're learning anything.
That's terrible, isn't it? I mean, we should want to be with our kids.
Sure.
Do you know?
You got to go, but the parents are free to go and do what they want. So there's parents who really don't care what your children's doing in school.
I mean, I guess that's a benefit for the reformists. Dealing with some of these. Don't teach my kid philosophy.
Yeah.
Damn. Do you notice any trends, any negative trends or positive trends with homeschooling or Montessori?
No. I haven't noticed anything. No. I think that there's socially maybe some homeschooling issues I've seen.
Like a reputation?
No, like, and a lot of them do anyhow, but there's some homeschooling that goes on where the child just doesn't have a chance to socially interact with kids his own age a lot, like you would do in school. So that social interaction is missing. So
they don't develop the skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need solutions for the increasingly homeschooled body of young people.
And why have people decided to go to homeschooling so much? Are they concerned about the school shootings? Are they concerned about what they're actually being taught?
Right.
Can't fix one problem without fixing a whole bunch.
Yeah, and we should be able to teach, teach about philosophy and religious history, do you think?
Well, yes and no. As we just said, that religious teaching, we just said that the First and Second Amendment is part of the Constitution of the United States. Feels important, but so is the separation of state and church.
Exactly. Even though on our money is in God we trust.
Yeah.
But it's probably forgivable because we're not identifying which God.
Or they take the Pledge of Allegiance out of school because what it says in there, come on. We live in this country. You got to start somewhere being proud of something. You may not agree with everything that happens in this country, but this is still a damn good country.
Yeah. How can we be better leaders, as a country, as a better example?
I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't have all the answers. I mean, you scratch your head and you wonder, but somebody comes up with a brilliant idea and it seems to do pretty good.
Yeah.
Until something else falls apart. It's like fixing your car. It's going to nickel and dime you. You know what I mean? The country's always going to have little things going wrong, and you fix them, and then you bring up 2 new problems.
Right. Tinkering.
Yeah. Things would have been much easier if the fathers of the Constitution had. If we'd be living back in that time, wouldn't it? No, because we'd still be riding horses and stuff like that.
Handling the politics of.
Yeah, and people were starving to death then. It was the same old problems. It just wasn't maybe on the same scale that it is now.
Mm.
And we talked about social media, and it wasn't as brought to people's face as it is now.
You mentioned social media is a big part of the school shootings and stuff, and the people involved in them. Do you think that we need to, cut down on social media a lot?
No, I don't think so, because then we're going to be accused of censoring everything, and there's countries there that are doing that aren't. North Korea, China, they control the internet. What can be watched, what can't.
Social credit score in China.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think receiving the information is not the problem. It's what do I do with it? Do I put it to good use?
Right. How do we exercise our First Amendment?
Sure.
And just to touch on that aspect of people missing religion kind of dying out of rationality, out of what's the point, out of seeing the flaws in it. Say a secular creed is sort of institutionalized more and more. Secular creed, which is kind of juxtaposition, as I like it. Is there anything that should be fundamental to our sense of spirituality or humanness, basic, that you believe in? Besides, what we talk about, respect, rule of thumb, compassion.
And I think that's all what it's about. As long as your religion or whatever your spiritualist, whatever it is that you're looking at, spiritualism, whatever it is, as long as it's not there hurting somebody else.
It's that simple.
Purposely. I don't care what you believe in. You can believe in anything you want. You can believe the rocks on the grounds are gods. I don't care. That's great. If that's what you do and it works for you, but don't tell me I have to believe in it, number one, if I don't want to.
Yeah.
And number two, don't pick them up and throw them at me.
Yeah.
Everybody should be able to, within reason, we all have rules to live by. We had rules as kids. Some of us did. We have rules as adults. I have rules. It's not carte blanche. I've got all kinds of people looking over me. There's nobody in this country that is not governed by rules. Period.
Yeah.
You just have to learn to accept them and live by them.
If, on the basic level, if there's a law that shouldn't be in place, how do we appeal it?
That's usually done in the court system.
Okay. Just figure out the legal process.
Yeah, that's done in the court system. Laws are written and passed by the legislation, and then the courts interpret them. And if the courts can throw a law out because they can say it's unconstitutional, that law is no longer in effect.
Great. Well, awesome. I could ask you a question, a good story from your life, or, maybe a regret from the past, or a lesson you learned as an officer.
Oh, wow.
Everyone loves stories, right?
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many stories that come to mind. Yeah, I think about a kid that I knew that got shot and killed one night that was a police officer in Smithsburg. He was a friend of mine. I took 2 shotgun blasts to my side window on an APC, an armored personnel carrier, by the suspect who had done it. He shot at multiple other officers. I took mine at 5 feet away.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, these are guys that's out there trying to support their family. Nobody was telling us we were doing wrong that night, but trying to get him to stop because there was other innocents in the way that just weren't law enforcement. He killed his wife or his girlfriend, almost cut her head off while his kids were upstairs, stuffed her in a closet and left. So this was not just one thing. And it's like this, I think, with anybody. Everybody has a job to do. We're trying to do, for the most part, 99% of the people in the workforce try to do the best they can. And just, you know, think about it, and anything can happen at any given moment. Nothing's a guarantee. Life's not a guarantee. None of us have a guarantee on it. No guarantee I'm going to live to tomorrow. There's no guarantee you're going to live to 60 years old. Okay, make the most out of it while you have the time with it. So he was young. He was 24, and 2 weeks prior to him being killed, I had actually met with him and tried to get him to come to Hagerstown to work, and he didn't want to come there because too much stuff going on. He was much happier in a small town. And Chris ends up getting shot and killed.
And so he was firing upon a police.
Yeah.
With a shotgun. Why did that end up happening? Got a domestic call, or?
No, he had just killed his girlfriend. And this officer drove by his house, which is outside his jurisdiction, saw the truck there, went down the road to a farm lane, backed in a farm lane, said, "I'll sit here and watch the truck. If it leaves, I'll let you know." They had other cars coming his way. And he saw the officer. He drove down, drove right at him, and shot him, killed him. The officer never even fired a shot until after he fired his first shot.
He killed an
He
officer?
hit him on the first shot, yes.
Damn.
Yep. And we don't make that kind of money.
Oh.
You give up everything you have. So,
Yeah, it's truly a sacrifice.
you know, we joke and we say this is like Mayberry here in Smithsburg. It's kind of slow. We like that. But Smithsburg was kind of slow and we like that. Doesn't mean it can't happen.
Yeah.
Just like doesn't mean things can't happen to you when you see them happening to other people on the street. You could be caught in that classroom when that person decides, I'm going to take everybody out in this classroom. You know, there may not be another tomorrow, so live today like there is no tomorrow and enjoy yourself. And respect others.
That guy probably had a bit of a sociopathy or a psychopathy, perhaps.
He had a big angry fit, I can tell you that.
Managing our emotions.
Yeah, anger management, yeah.
Is there anything we should look out for with people with psychopathy, sociopathy?
You know, that's, I don't know, each person's different. Each person, it manifests different in different ways for each person. I think recognizing that a person is having a medical emergency rather than, and that's what it is a medical emergency when something like that's happening. Okay?
When they're...
Right. When they're doing something that we look at as, this isn't right.
Right.
You know, they're on all fours behind a car, barking at, like a dog at cars as they go by, something like that. Okay? Wow. You know, and we don't just say, good boy, we'll see you later. Okay? You know, you try and get them the medical attention that you can so that this person's safe and he's not endangering himself.
Right. Yeah. Because that's typically a sign of meth, I think.
I've seen it with PCP. See, I went through the years when PCP was strong. That was the big thing, was PCP.
Really?
They didn't feel any pain either. That was the hard part. And when I say that, it wasn't because we were beating on them, but we got in car chases. They'd crash their car, break their pelvis, and get out and run from us. That's almost a physical impossibility.
Damn. What do you think is the biggest gateway drug for some of these terrible things?
Alcohol.
Do you drink?
Yeah. Socially, I drink occasionally, but I'm on medication now, which my drinking is probably 12 beers a year.
Oh my gosh.
It just doesn't fit well with the medication that I have to take regularly. So, but yeah, alcohol is your biggest gateway drug.
And one thing I definitely think people need to understand is addiction is not necessarily as we might think about it. It's not trying a substance and then you're it's not as much the physiology of addiction, the chemical addiction. It's more about circumstances. Like the Vietnam veterans, they would do heroin in the country, I think because of various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But when they come back, they mostly weren't addicted.
Right.
And it's because they came back to a normal life, completely different circumstances without the horror.
Yeah, they changed their whole environment. Remember, that's what we talked about with rehabilitation or going through. You have to change your environment where it's not an accepted practice.
Yes. For addiction, that's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In fact, rats in an experiment who were given a choice of heroin water versus regular water, when they're alone, they would drink the heroin until they're dead. With the rat kingdom with other rats and stuff, they don't choose the heroin.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, you started a TV show, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. I didn't start the TV show. Well, yes, but no. The TV show got started and Nick actually brought the TV people in. So Nick Groff, he was the one that was there with it. But that was a lot of fun.
Do you recommend it for people, just funny times?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't care who you talk to. I'm not sure I believe in 100% about ghosts.
That there are ghosts in the world?
I don't know that I believe that. I've never seen a ghost, but I also can tell you that I've gone on these investigations with some groups. I'm not part of a group, so that's not something I do on a regular basis. I got friends that do it, so I go along with them at times. And I know that when we go in there with a tape recorder, digital tape recorder, there isn't anything on it. We'll ask questions, and we get answers, and ain't none of us who's answered those questions.
So you would tape something and then you get a reply later?
Yeah, you go back and then you play it later and you listen to it. You can't hear it, but it's on that tape. And then you can hear it on that tape. So tell me how that happens.
I know one thing, if there are anything like that, if there's any kind of spiritual remnant, I would want to know about it.
Again, we won't know till we're dead.
Damn it, mystery.
That's what I always say. I say, well, I'll tell you all when I die. I tell you what happens. Oh, that's right. I won't be able to tell you. Yeah, look, I can't explain that, and it's very real. They use those voice boxes that scan multiple radio frequencies, like 200,000 times a second.
Oh my gosh.
They're scanning as fast. Okay, as fast as you can imagine. All right? They'll ask questions and they'll get direct answers. And every time you get an answer, it's the same voice for that particular questions. If you understand what I'm saying. I mean, I have been standing there, and Ernie is a buddy of mine who has, it's called an SB11, which is a voice box that scans all these frequencies. He's got it on a big speaker. And you'll hear little cut-ins, but you know that's not, there's no voice with it.
Right.
Okay? He'll say, well, he'll ask questions, no answer. And I've been standing there, and then he'll say, well, can you tell me who all's here? Mike King. Same voice, no break, nothing.
That's
Where
creepy.
did that come from? And I know everybody there, they ain't playing a joke on me. We're all standing together. There's nobody else there.
Well, I want to ask what else they say. I'll leave that for the for anyone listening to discover.
I'll tell you what, you want to have fun with your phone? You got a recording app on it.
Mm.
Okay? If you go to some place there where people have told you there are ghosts, you can do this experiment yourself. You may do it 100 times and never get anything, but you only need to get one, and you're going to go, what the hell was that? Put your recorder on, set it down, ask a question, wait about 30 seconds. Ask another question, wait about 30 seconds. So there's no outside noise. Wait till it happens.
Oh my gosh.
And then go back and play it back and see what you got.
Well, cool. I'm definitely curious. I'll definitely watch your show a bit.
I was sitting here in the office one day, and a friend of mine who was with another group that does investigations, he had called me, and I had gotten a call from a lady in Berkeley Springs, and she thought she was having some stuff going on around her house. So I said, well, I don't do that stuff. So I hooked her up with a group that was, one of them was out of Charlestown.
Ghost Hunter.
Yeah. So he went up. He calls me the next morning. He says, are you in the office? I said, yeah, why? He said, I got something you got to hear. You got to hear it. He said, I don't know what to do with it. I said, okay, we'll bring it down. So he brought it down, and this was EVPs. Okay, that's the voice that they use that they get on a recorder. Okay, he'll ask a question, wait, you can't hear it, then you have to go back and play it back. Okay? So he was setting up, he would use 8 to 10 recorders when he'd set them in different rooms. Okay? And there was a wooded area that the woman kept saying, I keep feeling that there's something back here in the wooded area. So he's walking out. Him and her were the only ones in the house. Okay? And he's walking out to put a recorder out in the woods. And he says, this is what we captured. And then they captured a woman's voice going, where's he going? Oh, he's going out there where that body is. 2 different voices.
What?
Yeah. No, wait, I'm not done. And the woman comes back and says, well, whose body is it? And a male's voice goes, well, that's my body out there. And then the stuff stopped. And the next morning, the sheriff's department found a body out there that had been there for a year.
This is a true story?
Very true story. In the paper. Very true story.
Wow.
I mean, tell me what a coincidence that is. So, I can't say it's true. I've never, you know what I mean? But that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely try that experiment, you know.
He came in and played the voices for me. I heard them.
That's creepy.
And he wanted to know, he said, if that's a homicide up there, he said, what? Well, it turns out it wasn't a homicide. It looks like it was probably a natural death, maybe drug related. Somebody had wandered off. They knew probably who it was. And the weirdest part, if that's not weird enough, the man who found the body was not connected to the house. He would walk his dog through there every day, had been doing it for a year, but that day the dog found a bone.
Really?
Yeah.
Another,
coincidence.
Oh my
Weird
gosh.
coincidence.
And this place has some serious history.
We got a lot of history here.
Like where I work now, the Lost Dog out here used to have bodies stacked up, dying and dead.
Every big building in this town, according to what the historians have told me, it used to be used as a Civil War hospital because there were so many casualties at Antietam and right in this area. You know, they just couldn't treat them.
Yeah, the river crossing with Robert E. Lee.
High Horse Ford. Yep. And the cannons that they fired onto the cliff sides when they had the Confederates there, and then they went around and forced them off the cliff. Some of them died that way. I mean, there's a lot of grisly violence that happened in this area.
Yeah. How do you feel about the Confederate stuff? Flags, should we take them down? Should we,
Like it or not, it's part of our history. It happened.
Yeah.
History, you should learn from history and not repeat it. Doesn't mean that you can't talk about what happened or, the last I remember, as long as you're not hurting somebody, physically hurting somebody,
Right.
how can that flag, the sight of that flag, possibly, and this is just me, and I'll listen to anybody who wants to hear me, I'm not saying I'm right, this is my perspective of it. How can the sight of that flag cause you such pain when I don't believe there is anybody that's around right now that was a slave then?
in Germany they have signs all over the place. They have all kinds of reminders, how not to become Hitler.
Yeah, yeah. And if anything, somebody could look at that flag and say, yeah, that reminds me, we're not going to do that again.
Yes. It's totally,
Yeah.
Of course, at Sharpsburg, I've heard some stories. There are some unfortunate, people who still believe in some of these things. And
I don't know about that. I haven't heard that. The closest thing we came was when I was in Hagerstown, we had to do the security. I was running SWAT at that time, and we had to do security for the KKK rally that they had over there.
They had a KKK rally?
Yeah, in Sharpsburg. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it because that is your First Amendment rights. So we had to provide them a location, and that was they wanted to do it at this park, so we just cordoned off the area so there was very little access. Because it's not so much. Most people are intelligent enough to tune out some of the things that some of these groups say. Okay? And they're not the ones you have to worry about. It's the counter demonstrators clashing with them that you would have to worry about.
It's the people that have the problem with this rally that are the problem.
Not really anybody. That rally was actually very quiet for a KK rally. Okay? But what you want to do is you want to separate the two so they don't have the opportunity to get together.
Gotcha.
You're not stifling them. You're not telling them they can't say what their opinions are, both sides. And it could be, let's just say it's not even KKK, it could be abortion or whatever, okay? Each side has a right to their opinion, but you want to try and keep them separated so that they don't have the time to clash.
Yeah. Because
that's where the physical confrontation is going to start, and that's where it's going to get ugly for everybody. There is no winner in that.
Was the rally, was it fairly peaceful?
Yeah, for the most part. When I say peaceful, they spewed off what they wanted to say. They had news coverage there, and they said exactly what they wanted to say.
Right.
So.
And you had to be
See, that's the thing about this job. You don't have to agree with what everybody's doing, but you have to protect everybody. Period.
You're a symbol of authority and protection.
Yeah, to make sure that they have a right to exercise their First Amendment rights, just as this person has to. And this may not be this is the court's decision. This is what they basically said you have to do. You cannot argue the content of what they are talking about, but you can enforce the level of loudness that they use to do it. Like if it's disorderly or something like that, where, if you have noise ordinances, things like that, you can control that.
Gotcha. Man, that must have been quite the experience.
Yeah, it's been different. And we had quite a few demonstrations down here. I don't know if you've noticed or not.
In Shepherdstown?
Mm-hmm.
Same type of rally?
Yeah, I'm very happy. We're very fortunate because we know, again, the nice part about a small town, you know who all's going to be there. Okay? And fortunately, they get in contact with me ahead of time, say, hey, we're going to do a little rally, about an hour or 2 hours, and okay, well, you can't do this, this, and this. Yep, we know that. And if you get on school property, you got to notify them and get their permission first. Yep, we know that. Okay, good. We're all good. And that's it. And everybody respects each other.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a good thing here. It works out well.
People get to get their
cool-headed people.
Yeah.
They get to get their message across.
That's good. Express yourself. So much violence comes when we feel powerless.
Yeah.
No one's listening to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People toot the horn. They like it. If they don't like it, they don't do anything. But you're getting to exercise your constitutional rights as a citizen of this country, as you should.
I suppose, are there any amendments you would abolish or change?
No. It takes somebody that's smart, far more smarts than I got.
Yeah. I definitely want to learn more about the Constitution. I couldn't even name you the amendments. Never learned the presidents, in school.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I know my dad. Now, my dad died when he was 86, and that was 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks. It's okay. He lived a great life. He had a good time. You know what I mean? He very, very good life. But I know in school, he was required to memorize the presidents, the number they were, everything. I mean, he had to know who their vice president was.
The bathtub guy. And...
Yeah. I never had to do that.
That's just a difference. That's just a difference between...
Just as it is now with you.
Right.
And that's what we talked about. Yeah. Yeah, that's how things change. It was important then, wasn't so important now, and apparently it's not even important at all because you said you didn't do any of it.
I mean, I had to choose to take AP English.
Sorry. It'll probably ring again. You had to choose what now?
I had to choose to take AP Government to actually learn the 3 branches at all. Yeah. And of course, take that if you need it.
What's that?
Take that if you need it.
No. We'll get back. We're good.
Well, I really want to thank you for your time, and
Have we solved all the world's problems yet?
I do have a final question.
Uh-oh.
More advice, because right now this is the first time I've done anything like this.
Okay.
I wanted to do it in Las Vegas, but it got pretty chaotic between college and different things. But one of the things I'm trying to do is just work with my family, work with my friends, work with my internet community, in trying to kind of develop a creed, a secular creed that can use rationality, adhere to the scientific method, and talk about compassion. Cherry pick from the religions, cherry pick from ancient lessons, and try to build something. Try to talk about current issues, give people a community, something to unite behind, right? And I don't know what it's going to be. I just want to be a part of it in some way. And so one of the things I want to do is start, interviewing anybody that would be relevant. So I'm curious if you know any roles or any individuals that I should contact.
Well, you've gotten police, which probably not a lot of people are going to be interested in hearing what I have to say, to be quite honest with you. But maybe you would want to talk to different level politicians, because each of them have ideas the way things should go. When I say that, city, county, state government.
City, county, state government.
Yeah. You talked about some of the medical issues going on with mental health. Maybe you should talk to somebody in the medical field.
Right. Definitely.
But the legislature's going to have something to do with that too.
Yeah.
Get an idea from the medical field. What do you think would work better? Because they're the experts in it.
Medical, what laws?
Yes. Yeah. For mental hygiene, how can we improve this? What do you guys need to do?
Yeah.
There's nobody in this building would like to see the mental health laws change.
In regard to?
Be a little more user-friendly for the people, to get people to help that they need for law enforcement, EMS, to have the ability to get those people there.
And needless to say, you'd be okay with more tax to help these people?
It's going to cost more money, but yes and no, it will cost more money. We're already sending them there. I just want to make it easier for them to get there, to get the help they need. And I don't think that's going to cost a lot of money. I really don't. You just got to take all the red tape out of the process.
Just to clarify, is there a difference between red tape and yellow tape?
No, red tape, I mean all the hoops you have to jump through, all the processes you have to go through. Somebody's really suffering a mental issue and they're contemplating suicide. If you have to wait an hour or 24 hours, that could be all the difference in the world, and I can't take that person into custody. There is no more safeguarding custody. You can't hold somebody and watch them, make sure they don't hurt themselves. Can't do it.
Right. Yeah. And that's such a terrible issue. I mean, even in the medical, in hospitals themselves, at one point is euthanasia. Should that be allowed? I mean, that's such a controversial topic with older people as well.
I'm not sure it's wrong.
To be allowed to, choose
I mean, certain circumstances, you know, you've had pets, you put pets to sleep. The doctors tell you there's nothing more we can do for them. Do you really want to see them lay in anguish?
Right.
You know, I worked canine in Hagerstown in the late 80s, early 90s, and one of the trainers down there used to say it better than anything, and it doesn't matter whether it was a patrol dog or your pet. They took care of you for how many years? They allowed you to do whatever you wanted. They never gave you a bit of guff.
The dog?
The dogs. Now, treat them with respect and let them have their dignity and don't let them go out in pain. Put them to sleep.
Yeah, and definitely, one of the most wonderful things to, when you're wondering, humans, we're so terrible. I mean, just look at the way we treat animals, Because even when we don't treat each other with the respect that we would like to, we always love animals,
This town particularly, it's not always like that everywhere. There's a lot of abuse to animals. It's sad. It's sad, and they don't have a voice.
We got to give them that voice.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for the suggestions.
Well, I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope it wasn't too. Like I said, we won't agree on everything, but that's what makes the world go around, is two different people having two different ideas.
Yeah. And as the journalist and as the law enforcement, it's not necessarily for
Yeah. Now, are you doing a journal? Are you doing a journalist type? Is that what you're hoping to do? Is be a journalist?
Not necessarily. Personally, I'm trying to work on a language project.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the main things I'm working on.
Okay.
So I want to either create a new kind of like language language set, or modify our own language in a way that agrees more with older languages like Swahili and certain Native American languages. And there's a key distinction in what they do with the language, in that we don't say, you are an asshole. You say, you are with it. And the way that we evaluate people, and the way that we distinguish cause and effect between saying, you're making me feel this way, and I'm feeling this way, and I need. And so, if there's a way in language for us to be able to communicate our feelings and needs, and not assign blame so readily, I want to do that. Emphasize it somehow.
So what does a language student think about texting and all the abbreviations and everything else people now use in the English language?
Right. I mean, it's pretty funny. We went from being animals evolutionarily, theoretically. We went from animals who were like, simple. And then we developed this incredible thing, language, and we can communicate and make all kinds of noises, phonetically. And now we've lost that physical component, and yet we have this language component.
Absolutely.
It's like...
But you're young enough to capture all of it and kind of stay up on it. Do you know how bad it is when somebody here sends me something and I have to go? They're sending me a tip and I'm going, what the hell does that mean? And I got to punch it in to figure out what it is.
Like a shortener, like an acronym?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to punch it in and search it. What does this mean? So I can get the gist of what they're trying to tell me.
Like a tip, like someone urgent.
Yeah, or something on Facebook that they captured and they send me a quick text with it. And I'm like, what are they trying to say? So it's difficult.
Yeah.
I used to think my mom and dad were having a hard time because they couldn't use the remote on the TV. Now I'm in the same boat, but it's not the remote anymore. It's the daggone phone.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I mean, I was 8 years old. I lived on the internet. I remember when LOL became a thing, and it's just a part of who I am to say LOL now.
Yeah.
Like identity. My identity is based.
IDK, it took me a while to figure out that. Now, not recently. I mean, when texting first started, the IDK, my kids were doing that. My kids are now 27 and 25. So I'm going, what the hell does that mean?
I mean, they're a bit out of it at this point, too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you know what a thought is?
What?
A thought.
I do, but it's probably not the same thing you're thinking of. What is it?
Like THOT.
No, you got me.
I might have gotten myself. God, I can't remember. There's like shoddy, which is like, it's kind of like a ghetto type of music for shorty, which used to be popular in old like 2000s rap, and now it's coming around. Oh god, like I can't keep up with it. But I'm not paying attention to stuff.
Yeah, it's constantly changing, but you're a language major.
It's part of it, you know.
You're gonna have to keep up to it because people are gonna look to you to.
Yeah, to think about language.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that we use language is so important. You know, like one of the things we do so rapidly, and this isn't not only in just our culture, but also in medical science. Psychiatry, we use these labels, we throw them around. You're a narcissist, you're a, you know, it's one of the big ones, you know, can't feel special, can't do anything worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
Which, of course, we need humility, but you know, you're this, you're that, you have psychosis. And how can we really judge someone to have that?
Just labeling people is what we're doing. Just labeling people.
Yeah. So that's definitely something I think we need help with as a culture.
Yeah. Don't be so quick to judge.
Have you heard of Vsauce?
No. What is that? So what are the big complaints you hear about us? So you got to interview me, so tell me what are the big complaints you hear about the police department. And don't say parking because I know, but I can't fix that.
Oh my gosh.
This town was developed before there were cars. It was horse and buggy. There were never meant to be cars here.
First town in West Virginia, right?
Yeah, by 1 minute.
What?
Yeah. Didn't you know that? There's a big argument whether Romney or this was first. They say this is about a minute before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that really means something. What's the difference?
I know. To answer your question, you know, I actually moved here. I got a home here a month ago.
Uh-huh.
I moved here about 5 months ago.
Okay.
And so I only started getting to know this community a bit through, you know, that family. And so
Right.
that's the only complaints I know about it. And of course, there's an old cop here who, you know, incident long ago. I've heard bad things about a certain Chris.
He's not here anymore. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. And I've heard
And
that.
I've heard a lot of stories bad about him. Yeah.
Federal indictments or whatever.
Yeah. See, that was one thing it shook my head a lot of times. I had heard stories about this place when I was still in Hagerstown working,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then years went by, and I had actually applied at the college and got accepted there, and then they came to me and said, hey, we'd like to get you, and we'll offer you more money, and that's what it was all about once you retired, you know? So I came here, and it was not like it had been years ago. They had started, that had all gone by the wayside. When I say by the wayside, that had all transpired. They had gotten rid of almost everybody. There was only one person left here at the time. And he went through and he wanted to change things. So we got a good start on it. And then when he left, I took over. And I hope we've continued building the community's trust, because there was a lot of distrust with the police department.
I have heard that people appreciate, and the community appreciate, who we have now.
Yeah, we really try hard. I think we go above and beyond at times. We do stuff here we would have never done in Maryland to help people. And by that I mean, you know, we didn't have time to unlock people's cars, things like that. Here we do that. We jumpstart cars. If we arrest you and we tow your car away and you show up here the next day, we'll take you down to get your car. Things like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Small town, you know.
Yeah. We're not trying to be, for lack of better terms, we're not trying to be dicks to people. This job does things that people don't like, but that is part of the job.
It's part of our world.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is how you present it, and you're not going to ever present it that it's nice and looked at great with everybody, but you can ease things up a lot. You know what I mean?
Can be the hero that the city needs.
Yeah. Example. One of the things that I did when I first came here, we get a lot of people that don't pay tickets. Okay. Most states have something built into the law where if you don't pay a traffic ticket, they either suspend your driver's license until you pay the ticket, or you come to court, something of that effect. Well, or they won't let you get your registration on your cars, things like that. Okay, West Virginia doesn't have any of that. We have a suspension that you get, but they issue a warrant.
A warrant. You're allowed to search the person's house or car.
No, the warrant is for failing to appear in court, because we send you a summons. You don't pay it and you don't come to court by that date, then they issue a failure to appear in court because they issued you a summons to be in court that day and you didn't show up. So they issue a warrant, which now adds more money to the fine. Okay? And then they suspend your driver's license, and that warrant sits in the file until we serve it. So we've had people call in here, and they'll say, I forgot to pay a ticket a year ago. Yeah, that's a warrant now, and I'm sorry, but I can't change that. That's just the process. Oh my God, I don't have that much money. Well, here's what you do. You call me when you have what you need for bond. We'll set up an appointment and get you in here so you don't have to go to jail. You sit here for 20 minutes. We do the paperwork, and you're out the door. So we kind of do appointments. Most agencies don't do that.
That's really helping people.
We're trying to minimize the embarrassment. People see you come through the front door, they have no idea why you're here. We take you to a back room, we fill out the paperwork, the magistrate arranges you, we say goodbye, and you walk out the front door. Now, there are circumstances where we can't always do that, but in most circumstances we can.
Beautiful.
So, it works, and the people are a lot easier with us. In fact, they'll find that if we bring them in here, there's very few times that anybody really gives us anger. I mean, most of the time we're joking around, we'll cup of coffee or something like that, and that's what we like. I mean, we are part of this community, like it or not, and it behooves us to get along and do the best we can to get along with everybody and not be the hammer that every time you go, oh God, here they come.
And so many people have that just ingrained.
Yeah, because, a lot of things have happened that way to people. That's the way it was. We don't want that. We don't want that. And we try to hire our people accordingly. We hire people who are into community policing.
Right.
And community policing, I don't know if you're real familiar with that, but the whole background to community policing is if you fix the small problems right away, they don't become big problems.
So like minor offenses and like helping people, like you're saying here.
Doing this, we're still enforcing the law. We're still sending that message that you can't do this.
Right. With compassion.
But we're doing it with compassion. We're saying, look, we understand you might not have that money right now. I apologize. I can't reinstate your license for you until this is paid or you go to court. But here's what I can do for you. I can set up a time. I'll put the warrant on hold. Nobody will arrest you in the meantime. We'll set up an appointment. You come in, turn yourself in, and we're good.
Nice. Yeah, I've never dealt with this. It's always scary to imagine.
Yeah, it's not really that difficult. Now, if it was somebody who had incidents happen where people have beat up their girlfriends or strangled people, I'm not giving you that invite. That's a different set of circumstances, and you brought this on, so we're going to come get you.
Yeah, that's definitely the line you don't cross.
Yeah. But we can work. We like to always say we can work with mostly anything. If you're decent, we'll be decent. We can work with anything.
Well, how do you handle a kid? I won't name any names who, just has a total vendetta, screaming at you, not complying whatsoever.
He's doing that, from what I understand, because of a past experience. Probably we just all need to sit down and have a talk.
That's a great idea. Communication.
Yeah, because I'm not going to tell anybody what they did was right when that has happened, but they also need to understand that we also have a job to do, and we can do this together and get along.
Yes. Versus
handling it this way, because all we do is make a bad situation worse.
Yeah, reduce that anxiety, be the community.
Yeah. And we've had, I can't tell you how many people come in here and they just want to sit down and talk to me, and it's stuff that didn't even happen in town.
They want to report something.
Well, they want to talk to me about it. What would you do? How would you do this? Well, I'm not the police agency that will handle that, but this is what, if I were you, I would do.
Interesting. That's interesting. So people just want to come to you for advice in general.
Yeah, I'm surprised too, because the other agency I worked at, I didn't have that. Not on the frequency that I have it here.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You're truly a problem solver now.
Yeah.
And I can't help everybody. Honestly, I can't. I can't fix some of the stuff. And I tell them straight up, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very common for people, who are, the more power, the more leadership, the more fame, the more we kind of dehumanize them and see them as this, like, I feel like this superhero, where, they're not as human anymore.
Yeah, I think the superhero kind of dwindles as you get older.
Like your perception of others in that way?
Well, I think my biggest thing that I learned was when I went to criminal investigations, and I really didn't want to do that job, but I got sent there anyhow. Again, that's detective work. Okay. I first got sent up there as a sergeant, and I had 23 detectives that worked for me at the time. And then I went up as the lieutenant, which was in charge of the entire unit. Okay. So when I went up there, they taught me a very valuable lesson, and I had been on 15, 18 years. But the valuable lesson I learned is that I needed people's information.
So talking to the people.
Talking to the people. My case was never made until they gave me what I needed. And I could catch a lot more flies with sugar than I could shit.
Intimidation versus...
Intimidation doesn't work. Because I don't care who you are, that causes people to put up a brick wall. There are times when intimidation is what you need. Okay? And time will teach you that when you're talking to somebody. You start out and they keep saying, they let's say they do the cross arms. If you want to go to jail for the rest of your life for killing somebody, I don't really care. This is your only opportunity.
Right. Giving people, hard truth, tough love right there.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the truth. Because we did a good many homicides, where you tell somebody, look, this is the only opportunity I'm going to talk to you. If you want to tell me why you did this, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, people are just going to think you're just a stone cold killer, so how do you want it to go down?
Yeah. And then, of course, the easy way, the hard way type of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd much rather do it the easy way.
Yeah. And so would they,
Yeah, and there's so many things that, and actually cases we've had where people have sat down and told me what happened, they weren't at fault. Because they sat down and told me what happened, instead of keeping that I'm not telling you attitude. It actually helped them.
Yeah.
So
there are certain things that I've heard, like, people will tell the police and they shouldn't be telling them at the time. Like, you're getting yourself into trouble because they now have to charge you or have to act in a certain way because you told them this. Mm-hmm. Is that mostly like, yeah, I have weed right here and it's a legal state? Is stuff like that mostly, or?
Well, there is no legal state. This state's not a legal state.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, even with a medical card from another state, you can't bring it in.
Right. So illegal, like here, right?
Yeah. It's illegal here. So, yeah. I'll tell you, that's a 50-50 draw.
If the cop will let you off or not.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I straight up going, I smell weed in this car. Yeah, I got it right here. Okay, let me have it. Okay, we'll see you a little later.
So do you give them a ticket, or we'll see you later?
Honesty goes so much further. If you're going to get a break, it's because you were honest. If you're going to lie to me and make me do it the hard way, no, I'm not cutting that break. I'll still treat you decent, but I'm not cutting you that break.
Show you respect and show
just be honest. Yeah, just be honest. Yeah. Honesty gets you a long ways.
It's not even a value from communities.
No, it's not. It's not a value anymore in this country, almost. With anybody.
Right. And of course there's this huge government conspiracy, government distrust that's kind of been building, and it's especially true now there.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think the government's any different than what it ever has been.
You think it's, yeah.
I don't think it ever has been. It's just more well known.
Right.
Honestly.
I mean, just look at some of the old, some of the old MK Ultra. We've always been doing some of this shit.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Nothing's changed. Just now everybody knows about it.
Damn it, Snowden.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. What are you going to do? WikiLeaks, here you are.
Damn. Well, I've learned a lot,
Well, it wasn't what we were here for. I didn't mean to teach you anything.
Oh, I came to learn.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't know what I taught you, but just be compassionate with people.
Yeah.
You're going to learn that, what I mean by that here soon.
As the election comes up?
No, in this town.
People are more compassionate here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're going to learn that.
Yeah, I'm definitely a city kid.
Yeah, you're going to see what I mean. You're going to be going, and this is a relaxed place. But it doesn't mean bad things can't happen. So still, just be aware of what's going on around you. It's here. There are evil things here. There are evil people here.
Do you believe in good and bad? Like, people can be inherently evil.
I don't know if it's inherently or not. I don't think it's inherent. I don't know that much. Whether I think it's like a gene or something like that where you inherited that you're just going to be an evil person. I don't think so.
But
irreversible. I think they can be a product of their upbringing.
Right.
And I think if they had really horrible parents that were constantly doing criminal activity, I think statistics show you're probably going to be involved unless it was to the point where you were a kid who said, I cannot deal with this anymore. I'm not living my life like that.
If you learn honor at a young
Yes. Yeah, at a young age. And then you stick to that and make sure that that's the way your life's going to be. It's not going to be like you picked a different mentor than your parents who were doing the wrong things.
Yeah. It definitely seems to like go one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you have just as many good kids, real good kids that come out of really bad family situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that, and they'll have so much more compassion for people in situations like theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can be some of the sweetest people.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I've heard is that people who don't communicate some of their traumas, people who communicate less, who show their feelings less, those are the people you should really worry about. Because, they've learned to suppress that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have a lot more.
Built up hostility.
Right.
Yeah, and when it goes, it's going to go. But that's the truth. When they finally hit the max, and that final straw hits the camel's back, watch out, because things are coming unglued.
Yeah, the most gentle men are the most scary.
Yes. Yeah, soft-spoken people are people I'm a little leery of. People who have a big mouth and run their mouth to your face, probably you don't have much to worry about.
Interesting.
It's just a personal read. That's not a guarantee, but that's just me.
Right. The average offender.
Yeah, the ones that concern me are the kinds that stare right through you and really don't say much.
They feel kind of distant.
Mm-hmm. 1,000-yard stare.
Shit. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, they concern me.
Oh, God. Well, I think I've asked you everything I was curious about.
Think of anything else. I'm here, Monday through Thursday. Doors open.
And, of course, if there's anything you want to ask me, feel free.
I think I did. As we went. I put as many questions, I think, to you.
I like that. I like, throwing it back at me. Of course, I'm asking questions that I have, reason I'm asking.
If you hear something that we're doing that maybe we can improve on, let me know. We'll try. I can't guarantee you. There are some things that just it's not able to be improved on. When I say it's not able to be improved on, we have orders too. We have bosses, and they tell us what to do. So it's some things we have to do.
Like municipality.
Well, the mayor and the council are our boss. So, and then there are state laws that are our boss.
Right.
And there are people that oversee those state laws to make sure that we do our job, like auditors that come in here and audit to make sure that the fines are being collected appropriately and they're being distributed where they need to go appropriately, things like that.
Talk about a hated job.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Everybody has a boss. There's nobody at the top. Nobody.
Oh my God. Presumably.
T-Rex was at the top of the food chain and it died too.
Well, thank you. This has been Bentley Perkins. This has been Mike King with Chief of Police of Shepherdstown. Who is the Chief of Police?
Thank you.